Scary truths. The pyramids that predate civilization. The mystery beneath the sand. Would you believe that there might be pyramids older than civilization itself? Structures so ancient, so immovable, and so precise that even today, with satellites in space and robots on Mars, we still don't know how or why they were built. This might sound like the opening to a science fiction novel, but it's not. It's archaeology, it's real, and it's terrifyingly out of place. Across the deserts of Egypt, under the dense jungles of Central America, and even beneath the ice in Antarctica, there are whispers of something lost, of knowledge forgotten, of architecture so advanced it defies what we believe humans were capable of. Not centuries ago, not millennia, but possibly before recorded history even began. Here's the paradox. According to everything we're taught, civilization began around 6,000 years ago. The wheel, the plow, writing systems, farming, all emerging around that time. And yet, scattered across the earth are massive structures that seem to predate this timeline. Massive blocks carved with laser-like accuracy. Pyramids aligned with the stars. Foundations buried so deep, it would take thousands of years of erosion to explain their current state. So here's the question. Could civilizations like Egypt, Sumer, and the Inca be just the final chapters of a much older story? One lost to time? What if everything we know is just the visible tip of a hidden, colossal iceberg? What lies beneath may rewrite our understanding of human history. In this video, we'll uncover secrets never before revealed, from strange anomalies in ancient stonework to scientific dating that raises eyebrows even among skeptics. We'll dive into the depths of geology, astronomy, and ancient engineering to explore one of the most unsettling possibilities in human history, that the pyramids might not have been built by civilization, but before it. Step into the sands of forgotten time. Walk the line between history and myth. And ask yourself this: what if civilization isn't the beginning of our story, but the end of something far greater? In the blistering heat of the Egyptian desert, there stands a pyramid that almost no tourist ever sees. It's not the Great Pyramid of Giza, not even one of the smaller ones nearby. It's a ruin, a broken, eroded structure buried deep in the sands of Saqqara. Locals call it the Layer Pyramid, a name that sounds almost forgettable. But what if I told you this forgotten pile of stones might be the oldest pyramid on Earth? Imagine this. You're walking through wind-blasted sands. There's no sound but the crunch beneath your feet and the low howl of the wind. You crest a small ridge, and suddenly, there it is rising like a ghost from the sand. A stepped structure weathered by time beyond measure. No guards, no signs, no fences, just ancient stone. And the feeling that you're being watched by something older than history. Here's the strange part. Geologists analyzing the surrounding rock layers found evidence suggesting this pyramid is not 4,000 years old like the others, but possibly more than 10,000 years old. That would make it older than agriculture, older than cities, older than writing. In other words, this pyramid may have been built by a people who, officially, should not have existed. The stones used in its foundation are massive, some weighing over 20 tons. And yet they were cut, shaped, and moved with a level of precision so exact it challenges modern equipment. There are no chisel marks, no signs of primitive tools. Just smooth, straight edges, like they were shaped by a giant, invisible machine. A single corner of the base aligns perfectly with true north. Not magnetic north, true north. A feat of astronomical accuracy we can barely replicate today without GPS. Who were these people? How did they know the stars? One ancient Arab manuscript refers to this pyramid as a tomb built before the Great Flood by a race that no longer walks the earth. And here's where the story turns cold. Because halfway across the world in the jungles of Indonesia, another pyramid has been found buried under a mountain. Known as Gunung Padang, it looks like a natural hill. But when scanned with ground-penetrating radar, scientists found layered stonework descending over 90 feet deep. Dating of organic material within the layers suggests it may be over 12,000 years old. That's more than twice as old as the Egyptian pyramids. And yet again, precision, alignment, purpose, all pointing to a lost capability, a knowledge far older than any textbook would dare admit. He warned us, never dig past the fourth layer. But they did, and what they found rewrote everything. What on earth is going on here? How could people with no metal tools, no cities, and no writing create structures more advanced than what we build today? What kind of minds were behind these monuments? What kind of world did they live in? And why did it vanish without a trace? How old are the pyramids really? Let's bring the mystery into the light for a moment. When scientists and archaeologists try to date ancient structures, they face a major challenge. Stone cannot be directly dated. Unlike bones or wood, you can't carbon date granite or limestone. So researchers must rely on indirect clues, tools found nearby, layers of sediment, or organic remains buried inside or beneath the structures. That's why the dating of pyramids is far from exact. Take the Great Pyramid of Giza. It's commonly believed to have been built around 2500 BCE. But that date is based not on the stones themselves, but on artifacts found near the pyramid, including a boat pit and nearby tombs. Some scholars argue these could have been added later, long after the original structure was built. Now here's where it gets more interesting. The erosion patterns on the Sphinx, a structure carved directly from bedrock near the Great Pyramid, show signs of heavy water weathering, not just wind and sand. According to geologist Dr. Robert Schoch of Boston University, this kind of erosion would require thousands of years of rainfall, which hasn't occurred in the region since at least 7000 BCE. That means the Sphinx and potentially the pyramids nearby could be at least 9,000 years old. Then there's the astronomical alignment. The Great Pyramid is aligned with true north with a margin of error of only 3/60ths of a degree. To achieve this today would require lasers, satellite imaging, and high-precision gyroscopes. How could ancient people, supposedly without advanced tools, achieve such accuracy? Some suggest they used the stars themselves, but the ability to track stellar positions so precisely implies not only a deep understanding of astronomy, but observations carried out over thousands of years. Let's go back to Gunung Padang. Indonesian geologist Dr. Danny Hilman Natawijaja conducted core drilling and radiocarbon dating on organic materials trapped between stone layers. The results? Dates as early as 20,000 BCE, a time when humans were believed to be simple nomads. But the layout of Gunung Padang suggests planning, architecture, and a cultural intention behind its construction. A society with structure, with knowledge. And there's more. Across the globe, in places like Peru's Sacsayhuaman, Baalbek in Lebanon, and the Yonaguni Monument in Japan, we find megalithic structures built with gigantic stones, some over 1,000 tons. These sites also show signs of unknown construction methods. No tool marks, no mortar, just perfect interlocking geometry. What does it mean when civilizations that weren't supposed to exist leave behind evidence that they may have been more advanced than we are today? But the strange thing is, if these structures are truly that old 10,000, even 20,000 years, then the entire timeline of human civilization as we know it begins to fall apart. According to mainstream archaeology, humans only started building permanent settlements around 9,000 years ago, and writing didn't appear until about 5,000 years ago. So how could people with no cities, no writing, and no wheel build monuments that align with the stars, move 1,000-ton stones, and carve with surgical precision? Something doesn't add up. Why would a society capable of such engineering suddenly forget how to build? Why do we see a decline, not an improvement in architectural skill as time progresses? The Great Pyramid of Giza is the largest and most precise, but the ones built after it are smaller, cruder, sloppier. That's not progress. That's regression. Here's the real puzzle. If we are supposed to be moving forward in history, why do the oldest monuments seem to be the most advanced? What if the Great Pyramid wasn't a beginning, but an echo of a lost golden age, a memory carved in stone? Why are ancient texts from all over the world, from the Bible to Sumerian tablets to Mayan codices filled with stories of the ones who came before? Beings described as teachers, sky people, star travelers, gods. Why do these stories sound so similar, even across continents and cultures that supposedly never had contact with each other? And why are so many ancient sites buried so deep under sand, forest, and even ice? If these monuments were from known history, shouldn't they be above ground? Easy to find. But no, they're hidden, forgotten, almost as if someone or something wanted to erase them. Why would a society spend hundreds of years carving a mountain, moving stones the size of small buildings, aligning everything to the cosmos, and then vanish, with no written record, no DNA trail, no tools left behind, just the stones? Could it be that we're not at the peak of civilization, but somewhere in the middle of a repeating cycle? Could human history be less like a straight line and more like a spiral, rising and falling, again and again? And if that's true, what caused the last fall? Was it war? Natural disaster? Something else? What happened to the builders of these forgotten pyramids? Why did the knowledge disappear, like mist at sunrise? A civilization before civilization. What if we're looking at this all wrong? What if these ancient pyramids, buried temples, and impossible structures aren't isolated anomalies but fragments of a forgotten chapter in the human story? Not myths, not exaggerations, but memories, fossilized in stone. Let's compare. Imagine modern society vanished today. Our skyscrapers would crumble within a few hundred years, our satellites would fall, our digital records, photos, books, videos would be lost to time, wiped away with the first power outage. In just 10,000 years, barely anything would remain. Now imagine a civilization that existed 20,000 years ago, but built entirely in stone. No steel, no glass, no wires, just stone. Gigantic, immovable, eternal stone. What would survive? Their stories, their names, forgotten, but their monuments would endure. Could this be what we're finding now? Not random relics, not primitive guesswork, but the ruins of a cycle, a loop in time. Just as we study the stars to understand our future, these stones may be the echoes of a past we're meant to remember. Across the globe, we find the same patterns. Pyramidal structures that mimic the shape of mountains reaching toward the heavens, alignment with celestial bodies, Orion's belt, the solstices, the North Star, legends of a great flood, of teachers from the sky, of civilizations that fell into the sea. The Inca, the Maya, the Dogon of Mali, the ancient Chinese, even Aboriginal Australians all speak of a time before time, when knowledge came from the stars, when humans were guided by gods who weren't gods at all, but travelers, engineers, watchers. Is it possible that the pyramids are not tombs, but transmitters? Not graves, but messages in stone trying to tell us something across the abyss of millennia? What if they are warnings, blueprints, or even time capsules waiting to be unlocked by the right consciousness? And consider this. Evolution teaches us that intelligence is rare and takes time. But what if intelligence doesn't always rise linearly? What if it spikes, collapses, and reemerges? A wave, a heartbeat. Then the real question becomes not who built the pyramids, but how many times have civilizations risen, flourished, and disappeared before ours? A forgotten network. When we zoom out, the pieces start to form a pattern. Imagine connecting the dots between Egypt, Indonesia, Peru, Turkey, and Japan. At first glance, they seem disconnected, random ruins on different continents. But look closer. Many of these sites sit on what's known as the same latitude lines, or fall along ancient meridians used by early navigators. This suggests intentional positioning, as if someone once mapped the Earth using a system we no longer understand. And then there's the style. Enormous stone blocks, laser-like precision, celestial alignments. These aren't just regional quirks. They appear across the globe. That's not coincidence. That's a signature, like a forgotten architect leaving the same brushstroke across continents. Consider this. The ancient site of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, dated to at least 12,000 years ago, features massive stone pillars arranged in circles. Some archaeologists now believe it was part of a vast ceremonial complex, yet its carvings depict animals not found in the region today, and star constellations positioned just as they appeared thousands of years ago. It suggests not only memory, but astronomical precision. Now connect it with the site of Nan Madol in the Pacific, Baalbek in Lebanon, the underwater structures off the coast of Yonaguni, Japan, all using megalithic construction, impossible techniques, and aligned to the cosmos. What if these weren't isolated cultures, but branches of the same forgotten root? A lost global civilization, scattered, shattered, and buried under time. Some researchers believe this may be the true legacy of Atlantis, not just one city swallowed by water, but an entire network of advanced knowledge, wiped clean by catastrophe. A civilization that sailed the seas, mapped the stars, and built with stone, not for beauty, but for endurance. In myths, they are remembered as gods. In science, they are dismissed as impossible. But in stone, their message may still be speaking. Not in words, but in geometry, alignment, proportion, as if saying, we were here. Learn from us before it happens again. Because if history is a circle, then maybe we're not the first to rise this high. Let's slow down. As powerful and fascinating as these ideas are, good science also demands skepticism. Not everything that feels mysterious is unexplainable, and not every unanswered question means the textbooks are wrong. Mainstream archaeology has explanations for many of the strange phenomena we've discussed. The erosion on the Sphinx, for example, has been debated for decades. Some scholars argue that it could be caused by wind and humidity, not necessarily ancient rainfall. And while the pyramid's alignment with true north is impressive, some researchers suggest ancient Egyptians could have achieved this by tracking circumpolar stars over time. The idea of a lost global civilization is thrilling, but the lack of consistent evidence across sites is a major challenge. No shared language, no identical tools, no genetic link between builders. Just similar shapes and astronomical alignments, which some scientists argue could be a result of convergent development. Different cultures arriving at similar ideas independently. Then there's the issue of dating. Radiocarbon dating of organic material near sites can only tell us when something near the structure lived or was burned, not when the structure itself was built. If someone cooked a meal at the foot of a stone 12,000 years ago, it doesn't prove the stone was placed at that time. Human memory is another factor. Over thousands of years, myths evolve, oral traditions shift, details change. The flood myths found in so many cultures may stem from local disasters, not a single global event, and references to sky gods might reflect ancient people's attempts to explain natural forces, lightning, comets, eclipses. And finally, our minds love patterns. Psychologists call it apophenia, the tendency to perceive meaningful connections where none exist. Seeing patterns in stars, faces in clouds, meaning in random noise. When we want something to be true, our brains will find reasons to believe it, even if the evidence is thin. But here's the paradox. The more we explore, the more strange consistencies we find. Enough to stir wonder, enough to keep asking questions. The scientific perspective doesn't cancel the mystery, it refines it. Forces us to dig deeper, test harder, and think wider. Maybe the real answer isn't on one side or the other, but in between. In the space where science meets myth, where fact meets wonder, where stone whispers secrets and the stars still speak. So now we return to the question that brought us here. Could the pyramids predate civilization? Could we be standing on the ruins? Not of a beginning, but of a forgotten climax. Maybe history is not a staircase going up, but a great wheel, one that turns, rises, collapses, and turns again. What we call progress might just be rediscovery, and what we call myth may be distorted memory. There's something humbling in that idea, that we are not the first to build, not the first to wonder, not the first to rise, but perhaps we are among the few with the chance to remember. Maybe the ancient architects didn't build to impress their gods, but to warn their descendants. Maybe the pyramids were messages not for their time, but for ours. Messages written in stone, because paper burns, stories fade, and only rock remains. We often ask, where did we come from? But the better question might be, what did we forget? And if this has happened before, If civilizations have come and gone like the tide, then the responsibility on our shoulders is greater than we think. Because we are not just shaping the future, we are carrying the past. If these pyramids truly whisper through time, then they are not just monuments, they are mirrors. And in their reflection, we may not only see who we once were, but who we must become. So the next time you look at a pyramid, not just in Egypt, but anywhere in the world, ask yourself, was it the first or the last? A tomb or a time capsule? A myth or a memory waiting to awaken?